What's up, it's your boy Domuto. We are back with another video. Today we're watching Beyond Dragon Ball Super. The Grand Priest returns, Ultimate Omni Power unleashed against Raijin. We're also going to be watching the other one. So it's going to be a 2-in-1. It's going to be 2-in-1 for the next two videos. For this video and the next video. And then we watch the finale, and then we'll start the new story, which I saw him post already. Because that nigga do not take fucking breaks. Alright, that nigga UnrealEntGaming do not take breaks. He gets right to it. So we're going to get into it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and there you go.
As our story now continues, following the initial events of the demon god known as Raijin having to completely decimate Universe 7's strongest warriors within the demon realm, it was only just upon with everyone now being shown having to be completely laid out, with Whis being the only one shown crawling towards his staff, with Raijin slowly being shown having to creep up behind him, was when Raijin then went on to address Whis by responding, "Just go ahead and take a look around you and seeing as to how your interference had directly resulted in your universe's downfall, Angel, and it's because I now see that you had went and used your angelic abilities through the usage of your staff to help heal and sustain these mortals and God of Destruction that I now understand as to what it is that I need to go and do. For did you truly think that I wouldn't recognize your predictable tactic by healing, supporting, and keeping your allies alive exactly as you did before against your brother Murno? Because meddling within my affairs ends here, Whis. For you angels had always pretended to stand apart and above the fray, but yet you always somehow find a way to go and insert yourselves into conflicts, but yet you always somehow go and find a way to insert yourselves within conflicts in which you don't belong, all in the name of upholding your precious cosmic order. As your cowardly acts of support masked beneath the veneer of neutrality were never truly hidden from my eyes here, Whis. And now that I am able to go and look into Murno's memories and having to go and see as to how you angels consistently meddle within the affairs of both mortals and demons alike, never openly admitting to your involvement out of fear, I refuse to go and tolerate such deceitful cowardice within my presence. And while you crawl desperately towards your staff in hopes of having you go and use it to somehow go and gain leverage over me, Raijin continues, every drop of your blood that was spilled today is punishment for your endless meddling and cowardly manipulation, as I want for you to go and feel every bit of the pain that I once felt a very long time ago, when your wretched brother Murno had locked me away, which came as a direct order from none other than your father, Whis. And so go ahead and crawl, because you aren't going to be getting very far from me, Raijin continues, and since I now know that this is exactly what you will go and plan on having to try and use against me once again, I would be the king of fools to go and allow for you to go and use that staff of yours to further prolong your fated destiny here against me, as I will not go and allow for yet another one of you disgusting angelic creatures to go and ruin my plans like how your father and brother once did ever again, Whis. And once I am done with all of you here is when my ventures into traveling back into that gateway realm in order to reach the Omniverse will resume, and resume with violence. As not only do I refuse to go and allow for you to even reach this staff of yours in hopes of trying to go and use it to heal yourself along with your dying allies over there, but now that I can begin to remember on just how much I've hated your brother and father for what they have went and did to me a long time ago, I am now going to make sure that you go and feel every bit of what I felt when they sealed me away a very long time ago. And since I have now decided that you will be the first of my primary victims to have their ashes spread across the cosmos, I want to now hear you beg for your life, Angel. And so look at me when I am speaking to you, peasants, for both you and your allies have gravely misunderstood the magnitude of the threat that you are left to go and face with here, because my power along with my true destructive capabilities were never truly anything for either one of you to go and put into question here, because if I really had wanted to, then I could have went and obliterated you all the very second that I had stepped foot onto your God of Destruction's planet, and yet I withheld, Raijin says, for I had waited and had relished in every single second of every single one of your desperate attempts to go and defy me, only to go and watch as each of these glimmers of hope had been extinguished by my hand and my hand alone, Whis. And why, you may ask? Well, it's simple, Raijin continues, because I had opted to instead indulge in this drawn-out torment of yours, so that way I could come to better understand the intoxicating rush that your former brother Murno had once experienced when he methodically broke you all before having to go and meet his end by your father's very hand. But nevertheless, you were right to go on to question this noticeable difference that you had began to sense that was coming from deep within my very spirits. Because what if I told you that I am not alone here against you,
Oh,
Whis?
shit.
What if instead I had told you that perhaps your brother's spirit is now slowly beginning to manifest itself again, but within me, Raijin questions? And I say this because
Within
I
you.
begrudgingly have to thank your race of bloodsuckers, for it was Murno's unwitting contribution prior to his untimely destruction that has granted me this golden avenue to go and unleash your deepest and darkest nightmares upon you. And since you were just as annoying to deal with when Murno was around, just as much as you have been equally as annoying to go and deal with here and now, Raijin continues. Unlike your brother Murno, you can rest assured that once I am ready to go and end you, I won't miss. But while your brother took too much time in wanting to go and soak in all of the screams that he could and squeezing out of both you and your universe at the time, which had inevitably led him down the road and having to cost him dearly, I, on the other hand, do not intend on failing for a second time, even if it costs me everything within the process. With Whis responding, by the time this war you have waged has concluded, and by
Don't
the
kill
time
Whis,
that
bruh.
this is
You
all
can't
said
kill
and
Whis.
done, no matter how destructive you turn out to be, and no matter how powerful you wind up in having to become, Whis adds, you could never have gotten where you currently are if it wasn't for my brother's former glory, which you have stolen.
Talk your shit, Whis.
Then we would have went and had destroyed you hours ago, and so you better go and make this count, because you won't be given a second chance to go and try this again, demon.
Talk your
and
shit,
I
Whis.
most definitely plan on it, you little rats, because unlike that dirty brother of yours, Raijin continues, I'm not looking to go and boast my ego by having to flex my power to go and prove anything, because you and I both know, as well as any and all of those who are able to see and feel, already know the truth behind the matter the very moment they go on to sense my presence, Whis. And so now don't move, because you will only be making things far more messy than what they need to be, as I promise that this will be over before you know it. And so close your eyes and prepare to wait. What is this sudden sensation that I am starting to sense that is coming from above? Raijin went on to then quickly notice. An intruder of some kind, or maybe perhaps the entity that I had came across within that gateway realm had suddenly found and made their way here. But no, surely that can't be the case here, because this energy that I'm beginning to sense isn't as dark and as empty as the one that I had felt when having to be inside that gateway realm, but instead, this feels rather divine. Hold
shit, the
on.
Grand Prix.
No, but surely this can't be possible, because I made sure that he was sealed away. But then, it was only shockingly enough now to everyone's surprise within this
The
very
Grand
moment now, as
Prix.
the Grand Priest had gone as far as to make his re-entry by punching down into Raijin and driving him through his God King mountain, was when the entirety of the demon realm itself was beginning to shake under the tremendous force of the Grand Priest having to step in and now having to be shown knocking Raijin down, as the sheer force behind the strike itself was then also shown ripping the mountain in half, with Goku then having to look over by chiming in, oh no, why is everything starting to shake so violently all of a sudden, and what just happened with Raijin just now? With Vegeta responding, I don't know, but this entire place is looking like it's about to collapse, but I can't move my body to go and check. Hey, wait, Goku responds, wait, everyone look there, by the edge within the center, it's the Grand Minister,
Yes,
Dark
sir.
Lord of the Underworld and King of the Demon Realm, Raijin. For no longer shall your corruption spread unchecked, and no longer shall your vile existence go unanswered, especially for what it was that you had did, the Grand Priest says. For not only have you defiled the very natural order of the multiverse itself, but you have also sullied the very fabric of existence with your abominations and sick perversions of divine authority, the Grand Priest says. And now as I return, I hereby stand before you not as a mere watcher or some kind of a prisoner within your sick and twisted game, but as the ultimate harbinger in being what will eradicate you, for you have brought war upon the heavens along with each of these mortal realms in which you sought out to destroy, as well as also single-handedly forging an abomination within yourself by mixing and merging together both your power and your nature along with your essence with the former glory and the former might of the fallen angel who had once sealed you away, and only thus having to further create the living and walking abomination
Priest done
which you
pulled out.
currently
It's
are
over now.
And it's because you had also went on to utterly and completely desecrate the very foundation of the multiverse's laws by spreading your vile and twisted essence from the demon realm and having it infect the other universes, the Grand Priest continues. The punishment that I have lined up for you will be just the kind of pain that is needed in order for you to go and learn your lesson once and for all here, demon. So in the meantime, I will need for you to go and relinquish your position here against this creature, the Grand Priest went on to address Whis by healing him, for I will hereby now be the one who will be extracting the multiverse from the jaws of this abomination, with Whis responding, Venerable Minister, but I must ask, how are you able to go and register everything that it was that had happened here if you had been already locked away by the time Raijin had been successful, with the Grand Priest responding, now while myself along with Zeno's Omni Guards had been swiftly taken and temporarily held captive within the angelic prison realm via the power of the Super Dragon Balls, through the haze of that very captivity, I was dimly able to detect the surging anarchy that was rising all across the multiverse, the Grand Priest says, precipitated by Raijin's integration of both his essence and his power with Murno's former glory and magnificence, in only now having to escalate the peril to unprecedented heights. And because this creature is beginning to grow more and more unstable due to the conflicting and contradictory natures of having to combine his demonic potential along with an angelic one, from this moment onwards, I will be this creature's primary and final opponent, and since he had seemed to have been thriving off of the pain and suffering of others, the Grand Priest adds, I am going to hereby now ensure by my hands that he goes and suffers dearly for every punch of pain that this abomination has caused, with Whis responding, then your request is my command, Grand Minister, but I must ask you on just where the two Omni Kings currently are, Whis says, and if they are being kept safely guarded in order to further avoid any unnecessary risks and dangers along the way, with the Grand Priest responding, for the time being I have instructed the Omni Guards to go and look after the Omni Kings by escorting them both back to Lord Zeno's homeworld, whilst also having to go as far as to ensure that the Super Dragon Balls are to be used to reverse the damage that was already done by this creature. And so while I go and take care of this beast in the meantime here, the Super Dragon Balls will be safeguarded and used to undo the damage that this monster has caused. But if the Omni Kings still choose to want to go and enter into the demon realm for the purposes of either observation or judgment, the Grand Priest continues, then I am to allow for them to go right ahead and do so freely, which we will first have to wait and see on what will go and come out of this before we are to go and make any further decisions and choices. And so now please go and heal the others while I go and handle my business here, Whis, with Raijin responding, but I don't understand. How are you set free from the prison realm that I placed you within, and how are you able to go and stand before me like this when you should be locked away and awaiting your fate by my hands with where it was that you were sent off to, Angel? And so how did you go and manage to return? As none of this seems to make any sort of sense, and more importantly, Raijin adds, is now that you have went and managed to capture my attention here, I am going to make you pay dearly for everything it was that you had done to me, you worthless angel.
Oh, shit.
How I was set free and what I did to go and learn of your heinous crimes while remaining imprisoned within the angelic prison realm is none of your concern, the Grand Priest responds.
Talk to him.
As you should be more worried about the consequences that you are about to be left off and having to deal with here, because what I'm about to go and deliver down onto you has only ever been seen and done once before, the Grand Priest says. And while I'm sure that you were able to retain Murno's memories eyes and having to see as to what it is that I am talking about, in which I'm about to go and do here, the Grand Priest adds. I want for you to go and prepare yourself, because not only will I never allow for you to go and get anywhere near the Gateway Realm and allowing for you to reach the Omniverse like how it was you had went and attempted to do an hour ago ever again. And so now get ready, because this is where you will now have to face Judgment Day, demon. To which it was only explosively enough within these very moments now, as the Grand Priest had then seemingly enough looked as though he was about to transform by exerting tremendous amounts of power and energy within the demon realm. The power exertion that the Grand Priest was beginning to emit was now beginning to actually crack the fabrics and having to separate the multiverse from the demon realm, as Demon Kibi went on to then quickly respond, "Whoa, what's happening out there? Because I can't seem to be able to go and see a thing. And so what is this? Is the Grand Minister looking to destroy everything here, including us here, or what?" With Goku responding, "Ouch, that power. And so I'm guessing that the Grand Minister isn't looking to go and waste any more time here against that monster, but do you think that it'll actually be enough to go and put Raijin down here for good, Whis?" With Whis responding, "Yes, but of course, and while I now anticipate for the Grand Minister to completely change the landscape of this overall conflict upon having to unleash his full power once again, it would also seem as though the Grand Minister's power output and effectiveness is now beginning to change the shape of the entire multiverse here," Whis continues, "in having things now be reverted by going back to how they were shown in being before Raijin's corruption, and so we will have to wait and see." With Raijin responding, "What an incredibly massive battle power, as surely this can't be that Omni power of his that he had went and used to destroy that fallen angel Murno with, now is it? And the multiverse, he had went and now completely severed the connection that I went on to combine when having to go and merge all 12 of the universes together within the multiverse along with the demon realm and having them unify as one. Oh, curse him. But what does he think he's doing? What is he trying to pull here against me?" Raijin questions, with Whis quickly responding, "And there we are, and now that everyone is healed, I will need for you all to stay where you currently are and wait for the time being, since this will now hereby be the Grand Minister's battle to wage now." With Raijin then having to chime back in, "No, but this shouldn't be possible, because I know that I had ordered for him to go and be locked away, and so how was it that he was able to go and break free and come here like this?" With Vegeta responding, "So that's what that is. It's that power of his that we had went and seen the Grand Minister use against Murno." With Goku responding, "Yeah, as I almost forgot on what this kind of power that the Grand Minister is exerting even felt like, since it's been a very long time since we've seen him go and use it, but do you think that it'll actually work out there? Because surely it must, right?" With the demon known as Kibi having to then further question, "Is that some kind of a transformation of sorts that the Grand Minister just revealed? Because, well, I didn't know that angels had this kind of an ability to go and pull off here before." With Beerus then responding, "Yeah, well, you're in luck here, demon, and so now I would advise for you just to stand back in the meantime and watch this battle very closely, because I can promise you that you are about to bear witness to something that is truly going to be special." To which it was only all the while in the meantime throughout the entirety of the multiverse itself, as Champa and Vados also went on to sense this massive anomaly having to happen, was when Champa
Where the fuck y'all at?
Respond, "What the heck is that massive and boundless energy that I'm sensing, Vados? For could this be the very power of the Grand Minister that is beginning to shake the entirety of the cosmos like this?" With Vados responding, "Why yes, Lord Champa, for this is unquestionably the doing of the Grand Minister having to now reveal himself onto the surface, but what's even more astonishing," Vados adds, "is that it also appears as though he has now liberated the entire multiverse and now having to free them from the demon realm's control as well. So the Grand Minister has finally returned, and from the looks of it," Angel Margarita from Universe 11 went on to then quickly add, "is that he also appears to be looking to finish this battle with that demon. However, with the coming battle ahead and with all eyes now locked and having them redirect everyone's attention towards the demon realm, and for everyone's sake, I hope that he is able to go and finish what that monster had started, because I fear that I don't like how you transform it too quick. If this doesn't work, which I just know that it will." But then it was only just upon with the Grand Priest now beginning to address Raijin directly upon having to now reveal his Omni form to him was when the Grand Priest then went on to quickly respond, "Raijin, you have violated the very foundation of all that was, all that is, and all that ever could be through your actions, and through your actions of those whom you have used to go and get where you wanted to be, as this nightmare that you have forged through the darkness in which you have spread will now come to a bitter end, and it'll come by the end of my hands and my hands alone."
Oh shit.
And through these actions that you have now taken and going against the very laws that we have placed here long before your time, you are now going to come to face your judgment, as from this moment onwards, I will be the one whom you will be standing across and battling against, demon. And while I can go as far as to hereby now go and eliminate you here and now as quickly as I was shown in having to go and enter within your domain, the Grand Priest continues, death itself is far too merciful of an end for you, as I am going to now go and make sure that you feel the weight of all of the lives in which you have destroyed, along with the balance that you have thrown into disarray, demon. For I will go on to strip you of this stolen power along with shattering this corrupted spirit of yours, as you will come to beg for the end of your life while I deny you the grace of death itself, the Grand Priest continues, as I am going to go on to punish you for every action that you have taken in breaking the laws in which you have, Raijin, and for attempting to converge and use the power of the 3 ancient configuration cubes and seeking out and attempting to also go and corrupt what lies beyond the other side. Will it only also now go on to be something that I will go and punish you for dearly, demon? And while you are now considered to be the second known life form to ever come this far and having to go and force my hand by revealing my true power and having to bring it out and onto the surface here against you, now I can start to see on exactly why you are every bit as dangerous as you claim for yourself to be, the Grand Priest continues, despite in having to further wield stolen and abominable power after merging both Murno's nature and angel with your very own a demon. And now that I stand before you and having to wield a power that goes far beyond your very own reach, I am going to deliver onto you a pain and a beating so great, the Omni Grand Priest continues, that no other force in the entire multiverse is going to go and save you from what it is that you have coming, demon, with Raijin responding, "Curse you, wretched vermin, for you may see yourself as being the grand guardian of divine order, but through my eyes, all I see is but a target who awaits their ultimate obliteration, because not only does this declaration of war excite me, but it only goes on to further fuel my desire to go and tear you apart, dismantle your prestige, and extinguish this light of yours once and for all. As your declaration only ensures that I will now go on to use every ounce of my full power to go and do what it is that fallen angel Murno couldn't go and do, Raijin continues, and that is for me to simply go and erase you from existence itself by my hand and my hand alone. So you may go on to be the strongest now, and perhaps even having to be nearly invincible after revealing this omni power of yours, but understand clearly here, priest, that my wrath recognizes no boundaries, as I will go and run you down by the end of this war until your final breath is taken beneath the weight of my boundless power and paying you back for everything that it was that you had went on to go and do to me, angel. As it was only right then and there now, during that moment, where the
Beyond Dragon Ball Super, the Omni Grand Priest versus the Demon God Raijin begins. Berserker Raijin awakens.
Story now continues following the initial rescue that the Grand Priest was shown making and having to save Universe 7 from the clutches of Raijin's wrath within the Demon Realm, to which it was only just upon with the Grand Priest having to unleash his Omni form for the first time since his battle against Murno and now having to confront Raijin, was when Raijin went on to then quickly respond, "How dare you go and position yourself in declaring my endgame so prematurely, when the source of my internal torment and the reasons behind as to why I went and did what I did was all because of you meddlesome wretch. But no matter, because by the time this here is over between us, no matter how high it is that you are able to climb, and no matter how powerful you want to go and claim
so
for
is Raijin stronger than regular
and
Murno? I'm assuming, because he got the combined power of both.
Will result in my undoing, you rotten creature. And what hubris in having everything that it was that you had just said come from you of all people. Because how are you going to be so sure that any of this that you have just said is actually going to unfold in the ways of which you think that they're going to, Raijin questions? How are you so sure that I too don't also possess the potential in reaching a similar Omni-based level just like yours, you angelic worm? And why wouldn't I be able to? Why wouldn't I be able to ascend beyond your reach in obtaining a similar level of power, or perhaps even a far greater one, or perhaps even a far greater one than the one that you are shown in having to use against me right now, Angel? Because let's not go and forget now that I am able to fully use and tap into Murno's reserves, along with his potential in having it elevate me to far greater heights than the one in which I am currently residing within. And so what makes you believe that I won't be able to eclipse you if my potential far exceeds your very own Grand Minister? With the Omni Grand Priest responding, your empty threats do not invoke any fear that is placed within my heart when having to take a look into seeing as to what you turned yourself into. And as this amalgamated parasite continues to go and fester from deep within you, the Omni Grand Priest continues, as it feeds off of your desperate rage in hopes of being enough in what will stop me, you have already lost this battle here against me, and as I will gladly hereby go as far as to also prove it to you the moment you are to go and make your first move. A parasite, huh? Is that what you think of me as being? Well, fine. Then why don't you go and stay right where you are, and I'll... You are in way over your head here against me if you believe that I will be intimidated in the least by anything it is that you have to say, the Omni Grand Priest interrupted by having to then be shown striking Raijin in the stomach. And so what good is your own word to anyone if you will ultimately fail to deliver on your promises, especially since you and I both know that no matter what you assume to know after retaining Murno's memory or lack thereof, you will never escape the judgment that awaits you, the Grand Priest continues. But in the meantime, let's just see if you can prove me wrong, as now I want to see if you have what it takes to do as I just did and match my resolve, demon. Now I get it, Vegeta went on to then respond, as the Grand Minister was looking to do unto Raijin as Raijin had done unto so many others. But could this perhaps be a mistake of some kind that maybe the Grand Minister is hereby making? Because how could we go and be so sure that this demon isn't going to use one of the many tricks throughout this battle that he has within his pocket to elevate himself even further than where he is right now in this battle? With Beerus responding, well, although we cannot go and simply rule out the idea of this demon having to somehow find a way to perhaps change the tides within his favor during this battle, the odds of seeing this demon prevail over the Grand Minister, however, is essentially non-existent. Yes, and while I second Lord Beerus's overview, since the Grand Minister appears to deliberately want to choose to engage Raijin this way, Whis adds, I am also starting to now believe that while Raijin indeed appears to be changing from within, perhaps the Grand Minister is also using this moment here between them to go as far as to gauge his Omni level of power when fighting this demon, since Raijin's case in having an enemy of his caliber come along isn't always a frequent one to begin with here either, and so I must go on to assume that the Grand Minister is hereby going and taking these moments to not only punish this demon for everything that he has done to break the laws of the cosmos before him, but on top of the fact, it also looks as though the Grand Minister is testing to see if he could exploit any and all of Raijin's weaknesses and vulnerabilities, Whis says, and as I would go as far as to wager that he must already know of some of them by now, which is why we will have to go and wait and see as to what will come from this. Make a mockery of me, will you, to shun me away and cast me into the voids beneath you, huh? Raijin adds, well, not this time, because this time I won't allow for you to have this go within your favor. And as I intend on having things go and end differently here between us, and if you still wish to go and doubt me, then stay right where you are. But it was only just as all of these arms were then beginning to explode and literally having no effect upon the Omni Grand Priest whatsoever was when the Omni Grand Priest then went on to respond, does it damage your ego to know that everything that you will try and use against me will ultimately backfire just like the rest did? Because that was just pathetic, Defiler. Oh, don't you worry, right, because sooner or later, I am going to make you eat those words, whether you see it coming or not, which you won't. Which it was only within these very moments now, as a gigantic explosion was then seen having to emanate from the battlefield, with Raijin being shown having to look on, was when Raijin then went on to quickly continue. There we are, as that ought to go and slow him down for a short enough time period, and allowing for me to hurry and go and think of some kind of an alternate strategy in order for me to overtake that wretched minister during this battle. But even now, something doesn't feel right, because surely he couldn't have just tanked through my attack just now and having none of that affect him now, did it? Just so that we are clear here, Defiler, in case you weren't already able to go and catch on to the fact, for not only am I hereby choosing to go and willingly limit myself here against you so that I may inflict upon you as much damage in making you pay for your actions that had nearly resulted in our absolute annihilation, but I also want for you to go and be able to fully experience the difference between our powers firsthand, since you had already positioned yourself into believing that your strength had already stood at the very pinnacle of supremacy itself, which it almost did after having to do away with both myself and the Omni Kings. The Omni Grand Priest continues, when in reality, your stolen and contradictory powers only serve in having to simply keep you alive long enough before I finally go and decide to put you into the grave where you rightfully belong. Only this time, you will not go on to be afforded the prospect of being lucky enough to have yourself be locked away like how you once were, the Grand Priest says, and that is simply because keeping you alive will only continue to act against our very best interests here, and especially if you were to somehow go and find a way to be freed from your captive prison yet again, just as it was the first time around. And so to avoid and ever allowing for you to create such problems like the ones that you have created thus far by having them happen again one day, I am going to hereby now go and take every opportunity here between us that I can possibly go and manage to get my hands on, in allowing for me to go and inflict upon you the horrors that you yourself had went on to cause onto so many of the others as retribution for your terrible deeds, demon. And that is simply because while you were looking for a shortcut in order to go and attempt to discover and consume the Omniverse by any and all measures, the Omni Grand Priest continues, even if it came at the expense of your own existence, the abomination that you have created by combining Myrno's former glory alongside your own cannot be allowed to go and continue to exist, because while the angelic nature seeks equilibrium, the essence of a demonic nature such as your own seeks dominion, the Grand Priest continues, and when forcefully bound together, will it only begin to slowly tear your body apart from within, as it currently is shown in having to do right now. An abomination precisely defined, a mixture that unmakes the meanings of its ingredients, which is exactly in what you have become, and no matter how many times you wish to change, the Grand Priest continues, you will never be able to go and undo the damage that you have already caused, especially not after having to use those 3 ancient configuration cubes to go as far as to track down and confirm the existence of the Omniverse as well, demon. To which it was only just then during these very moments now, as the Omni Grand Priest was then shown having to beat Raijin into an oblivion, was when Goku then went on to quickly chime back in. So what exactly was this Omniverse that Raijin had been so desperate to go and discover and enter into that the Grand Minister keeps talking about? Goku questions, because aside from now having to go and learn about Raijin's drawbacks that are
is this the power you had?
Why was his mission in having to go and reach to discover the Omniverse that important to him? With Whis responding, for as much as I can remember and having to hear whispers about it, the Omniverse itself is said to be home to a vast number of different multiverses and timelines, all filled with their own alternate dimensions and events that had shaped them into all being different and apart from one another. However, Whis continues, while the question on how and why Raijin wasn't fully able to go and bypass his way into achieving his plan still remains unknown, since of course we still don't truly know on what it was that had caused for him to be thrown back out in the first place. But if there's one thing that I will say Whis adds, it's that no matter how hard he might try, and no matter how desperate Raijin becomes in attempting to go and try anything that he believes will turn the tides within his favor, there will be nothing that I truly believe that he can go and do that will work to help save him against the power that the Grand Minister is using out there against that monster right now. And while Raijin's current punishment is an order that directly comes down from the Grand Minister, as he believes that such evil is deserving of such a fate as the one that Raijin is facing within this very moment right now, since Raijin's entire motive was seemingly to go and conquer every other reality, including his own, which has now ultimately resulted in having Raijin face the full weight of his karma by the hands of the Grand Minister himself, especially when anyone given their history, and unless of course there is something that Raijin isn't showing us out there, Whis continues, do I only then believe that this punishment here by the Grand Minister is absolutely warranted, because unlike what Murno tried doing, Raijin had attempted to overstep the natural laws which hold the multiverse together, and because of this, Whis adds, we will simply have to wait and watch to see on how this will go before we are to go and make any sudden judgment or assumption out there, to which moments later, as we then pan on over back to the Grand Priest, as the Grand Priest was shown having to beat Raijin down, was when the Grand Priest then went on to quickly respond, you battle for control within yourself, but it's utterly futile, for the unstable merger between both angelic and demonic powers will ultimately erupt in a violent internal cataclysm from within, tearing your spirit apart until you have made the ultimate choice, and that is to simply go on to choose whether to accept your fate here and be punished for your crimes, as you cannot possibly hope to match my power output during this battle here, or the Grand Priest continues, you can choose to instead go and continue to push yourselves in hopes of having something change here against me, which will only continue to further drive you deeper and deeper into the voids of insanity, as no matter which of these outcomes you end up choosing, and no matter how strongly you believe that anything that you can come up with here will actually work, the Grand Priest continues, and no matter how strongly it is that you feel in your conviction here to push yourself in attempting to use any and all measures that you could go and get your hands on to try and leverage victory over me, understand these words when I tell them to you, that I will not only crush your aspirations of ever having you attempt such actions here against me with succession, but you have also reached the limits of your full power, which barely even had any effect out here against me, the Grand Priest continues, which I am more than already certain that you are also very well aware of by now, which only further explains as to why you are starting to slowly lose your composure out here against me, demon. And as the overseer of the laws in which the great Omni Kings hold in place, the Omni Grand Priest continues, commit to an action and make your choice against me here and now, otherwise I will hereby go and make your choice for you, as the pain that I intend on having to go and put you through has only just began to scratch the surface here, you abomination. And thus choose now, demon, with the battle damage Raijin being shown slowly getting up by turning around and responding,
this shit is out.
Self-absorbed and arrogant angelic creature, and just why would I go and bow myself out of this battle so soon? For you have some nerve, angel. I hate you more than words could ever possibly hope to go and describe, Raijin says. But this isn't over. This isn't over by a long shot,
Grand Priest, finish him off.
So don't go and assume and take this moment and having it be what signifies my end, because I am very much far from finished here with you, Grand Minister. And even if I must go and burn my very own existence down to ashes and rise from the fires of oblivion itself, I will find a way to go and match your power, and once I do, once the tides have shifted within my favor, will my strength only wind up in having to completely eclipse yours in ways that your feeble divine mind cannot possibly hope to comprehend. As I had sworn a very long time ago that if the divine would not go and make room for my hunger, Raijin continues.
Oh, you got two eye colors now? What the hell?
Behind in the wake of destroying everything
You on
that they
berserk?
hold dear to their hearts, if it means in having to finally win, and will I shall. Because if this means that I will have to go and destroy myself in order to finally destroy all of them, then that is exactly what I will hereby go and accept, in allowing for this to go and be my fate, if it means having me go and take them all down and into the graves alongside with me. And while they see me as being an existential threat to their very ways of life and existence itself, if I must go and destroy my very nature in order to watch them all crash and burn as a result of my unbound quest for absolute power, then that is exactly what it will be that I will now go and do, no matter the cost. to which it was only shockingly enough now within these very moments, with the others having to
Y'all should have
oversee
finished
as
him off
Raijin
when y'all
was now
had the
beginning to
chance.
seemingly transform and having to manifest all of his power now onto the surface, was when Beerus went on to then quickly chime in. What in the world does that maniac think he's doing over there, Whis? As his power is starting to rapidly skyrocket, even more than how it was shown in having to be before. And so now what does that demon think that he's doing? Because everything is starting to shake under the weight of the power that he is exerting, with Vegeta having to then quickly chime in. But where did he go and manage to find this much power from? As surely you aren't going to go and tell me that this freak had been harboring this much power since the very beginning, whilst having to go and hide this from us the entire time, now did he? Because it's also now starting to look as though his body is starting to change out there as well, but why? With Whis responding, oh no, as I am starting to fear that there is something else that is now beginning to take shape, which appears to be coming from deep within his very spirits. As despite with the amount of power that Raijin is pouring out onto the surface now, his essence from within appears to be rapidly changing, as it almost now appears as though he is now beginning to condense his energy into one singular point within his body, almost like some kind of a ticking time bomb of sorts. But we mustn't go and let our guard down just yet, Whis continues, because it still doesn't look as though we are going to be getting out of this mess here anytime soon. To which, as we pan on over back to the Grand Priest, was when the Grand Priest went on to then quickly respond. So I was right to assume that he is going for broke down there, since he now looks to be pushing himself beyond his previous physical capabilities. But what exactly is he planning? Listen to me, all of you. Whis went on to then create a barrier by addressing everyone and responding, as no matter what ends up happening out there, and no matter what this monster tries to unleash and having to draw forth and onto the surface, we are to ensure and trust that the Grand Minister will continue to go and handle things the way they are. But I do fear that since it now looks as though with Raijin beginning to grow more and more unstable, the more he continues to overexert himself, this was surely the last thing that I had ever expected to go and watch unfold. Whis continues, as I had ultimately feared that he would go and harbor more power than what he was shown in having to use when battling against the rest of us. But since we really don't know as to what it is that we are in for, especially with Raijin now appearing to now be far stronger than Murno was ever shown in having to be before, we must trust that the Grand Minister will go on to finish this beast for good, as he is our one and only best chance in having to ensure our survival when facing that monster. To which it was only back on over with the Grand Priest now having to oversee this from above, and now gaining a better understanding as to what it was that Raijin was now beginning to do, was when the Omni Grand Priest then went on to quickly respond. So this was your backup plan that you have been hiding from the rest of us this entire time, for you have not only allowed for the parasite that was growing from deep within your forged spirits to now fully manifest itself onto the surface, but he also appears to be concentrating all of his energy into one singular point within his body somewhere, the Grand Priest continues, and now having to amount into becoming a ticking time bomb of sorts, which only goes as far as to now show me that he is willing to go and throw his own life away if it means putting an end to
going
me.
all that,
Back down below, as Raijin's transformation was now seemingly having to be complete and giving way to now go as far as to reveal Raijin's berserker form having to manifest itself onto the surface, was when Berserker Raijin then went on to quickly respond. You drove me into this, you angelic freak! You are the one who had pushed me to my absolute breaking points! And now that I've exerted everything that I am into bringing it out and onto the very surface, this is where you are going to finally meet your end. And as I vow to destroy you at any and all costs, no matter if I am to go and destroy myself along the way, Raijin continues, this is the choice that I have decided to go with here, because just as it once was when I fell, in due time so will you, the last of the old guard and mightiest warriors among them all, fall as well, Raijin says. And since both yourself along with your pathetic allies there have already taken everything that I could ever hope to strive for, and coming in between everything it was that I had been slowly building here, just as all of you had managed to once again go and take everything away from me, I too will now ensure that I am going to go and do the same to all of you, because if I can't go and be allowed to rule over the multiverse with an iron fist whilst being granted access into once again being able to enter into the Omniverse, then nobody can, as I will gladly go and stake my life on it that it does, as it was only right then and there now during that moment where the Beyond Dragon Ball Super Story of the Dark Masters, the official Murno sequel manga.
Alright, Berserker Raijin versus Full Power. I get what the fuck it's called. Full Power Grand Prix. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, this fight is going crazy. Alright. I can't wait to see this fight. Like I said, so I'm gonna combine the next two videos as well, and then we'll watch the hour-long finale after that, and then yeah, we'll be ready for the next story. Let me know how y'all feel about these two chapters down below. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Shout out to UnrealEntGaming for this video and for all the work he does. Make sure you check out the last one right here. Check out another one you might like right here, and I'll catch y'all next time, man. Peace.